This is episode 201 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 201 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today I have a good friend, Robyn Valadares, on the show. Robyn came on to talk about his financial literacy education, his journey, and how he's now helping other people who are in his field of physiotherapy become educated on how to manage their personal finances. And a big part of that puzzle is investing in real estate. So Robyn's not one-dimensional when it comes to his investing. He, of course, loves real estate. We got into a really cool Airbnb case study where Robyn actually is house hacking his existing house and renting out a bedroom and making a couple of grand a month off of renting out that room on Airbnb, and he became a super host in the process. So super valuable experience and a cool story and case study to go through on the show. Robyn's also into options trading. He talked a little bit about how that's going, talked about crypto, what's going on in the space, the recent collapse of one of the biggest exchanges in crypto, and much more was covered in this episode. So I'm confident you're going to enjoy it. As always, I'm just going to mention the GTA West REI meetup now up and running. The events are happening monthly, so if you would like to attend one of our events and meet fellow like-minded investors and learn what your peers are up to, I highly recommend it. Make sure that you check out the link in the description of this video or in the show notes of this episode and join up to our Facebook group so that you can get notified the next time we have an event. Also, I want to remind you about REI Hot Seat, my weekly deal analysis show on YouTube. It's available and an episode drops every Wednesday. Please make sure that you check out that channel, subscribe to it, and hit the notification bell there so that you can be notified every time we launch a new video. We cover all kinds of different deals that are on the market right now, as well as deals that have closed and market updates. You're not going to want to miss out. Make sure you subscribe to that channel. Now, without further ado, please enjoy episode 201 with Robyn Valadares. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I've got Robyn Valadares, old friend, golfed many years together. You were originally a listener of the podcast.
I still am, but I was, yeah, that's correct.
And we've hung out a bunch since then. So Robyn, I think this was probably long overdue. We kind of chatted about it, found kind of a topic matter we were going to cover today. And so obviously you're an investor. Everybody who comes on the show is.
That's right.
And then you're also into financial literacy, which we're going to dig into, which I think is a nice compliment to being an investor.
That's right.
You're doing, I think, options trading as well.
Yeah, as well, yeah.
So you kind of got a little bit of a lot of different things you're doing.
That's right.
And well, first off, thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. So, what's new? I haven't talked to you in a little while.
I think the most pressing thing that's just finished last month, I actually, after 18 years of banking with one institution, I finally switched banks entirely and went to a different division because they offered me the best product for all three of my properties as a lending arm. So my goal 2 years ago was to give us access to capital to take advantage of potential deals coming down the pipeline.
So you wanted like access on lines or?
Yeah, on lines. And through some personal things I've gone through, I was unable to do it for a period of time. Both with the COVID lockdown and being a physiotherapist, we were closed for a period of time and you had a hard time deriving some sort of income. Yeah. And then going through a separation, that also kind of impeded my ability to qualify.
Oh, yeah.
Because you go through the challenge of separation as well as being self-employed and owning a corporation. Banks don't look too favorably upon you.
Oh, no, that's a storm. A storm of something.
Yeah. So finally, after getting about a year underneath my belt, showing that I can earn an income by myself without a partner, the bank said, okay, I can take you under and go through some refinancing. Yeah. So I finally got that settled. Now I have access to capital. Now I get to go shopping.
Do you think it was like a bank-specific thing here, or was it more situational?
I think it was situational.
Just situational.
You're a self-employed individual. Your 2020 year of income was poor relative to the other ones. Yeah. And then you have a one source versus two sources, and you're self-employed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. I remember talking to my barber, and he was saying, I forget which year it was. I think it was 2020. Like no profit. Like it hurt a lot of people. Yeah. Anyone who does service, the fact the government would just, you're done.
Done.
Yeah.
Yeah, regardless of any situations. Yeah. And what it taught me then is that regardless of your education, class, or status, at any point in time, you can the faucet's turned off. Yeah. And unless you have other diversifications of income.
Yeah, multiple streams. Yeah. Whew. Yeah, to be entirely reliant on one source of income is so dangerous.
And that's all they teach you in school.
Yeah, like a job is one source of income. Like all that has to happen is your employer has to put you in a position where you're forced to do something unethical or you're not comfortable with, or you say, no, I'm not doing that, and they fire you. and then your income's gone. And for people who have a family to feed, they might just say, well, I can't not have a job, so I'll do it. As a man of principle, that situation would never work for me. So I guess that's why I've never been a very good employee. But so you're self-employed. Obviously, you probably felt like that really put you in a position where you had some flex. But when all of a sudden, the government does what they did, I don't think anybody saw that coming.
None.
No.
And here's one of the big fallacies is that you spend your life, I spent 6 years in school developing a degree, and they teach you to get one source of income. What they do not teach you how to do is how to diversify. So if that source were taken away from you, chiropractors, physios, massage therapists, osteopaths, what do you do?
Well, think about the majors in university. Like, I started out going to King's College and then switched to Ivy after 2 years. And at King's College, it's like you're studying religious studies, poli-sci, philosophy, like sociology. Sociology is actually quite useful. But a lot of these other ones, it's like they're not going to help you function in the real world. To a degree, they do. I don't mean to put those degrees down. I'm just saying that there are other degrees. And I just saw a list the other day of like the top 10 degrees people regret getting. And some of those were in the top 10.
Okay.
I did not see business administration in the top 10 or economics in the top 10. I think that those are, although maybe a little bit more boring to take, depending on your interests, more useful. Anywho, not to get too tangent here.
Agreed.
Yeah. What did you study? You obviously studied kinesiology.
Kinesiology and then physiotherapy afterwards.
Okay, yeah. Which very, very applicable skills that are needed.
Mm-hmm.
So super useful, but of course, you want to have more than just that in case something happens, right? Like what happens if you have an injury and you can't practice?
You're so right.
Yeah.
You're just concentrated all your risk into one income stream.
Yeah. So this like kind of like wake up for you, and you started your education, you started your courses. Like this was really stemming from 2020 onward?
What question? A lot. That's when I took action.
Yeah.
Because I was very comfortable prior to. But what really shook me initially to get on the financial literacy thing was my preceptor at the time, 10 years ago. She asked me, Robyn, how many physiotherapists do you know practicing over the age of 55 or 60?
Yeah.
And in our skill set, you work with people on a daily basis, you use your hands, your body, your mind. There's not many practitioners over the age of 55, 60 practicing. So it made me think, if I can't, my ability to earn income is finite. 25 to 50. What do people do afterwards? And how do I build up an egg that it can last me to retirement? And you know full well right now, the biggest risk to retirement is not how much money you have, it's how long you're going to live. Many people stay up to 65, but they can't make it to 85.
Yeah.
So that told me, get on how do people develop wealth. And that's where real estate came in earlier on when I started practicing.
Yeah, obviously you were listening to the podcast. Had you already invested when you started listening to the podcast?
Fortunately, in 2014, I was listening to Bigger Pockets, and that was the only thing real estate based back then. Thankfully, I found you through some connections. I'm like, okay, this is very Canadian-centric. So
there was nothing really Canadian-focused back then. I didn't even know about Bigger Pockets. Man, if I had known about podcasts back in like 2011 or 12, I would have started one then. Yeah. Just to get all these investors talking to me.
That's right, exactly.
That way I could have learned.
Exactly.
Yeah, would have been really helpful. Okay, so you had already started the education. What do you have as far as real estate investments go?
So I have 3 properties, including my own primary residence, a single family end unit townhome in Ancaster, which I purchased in 2014.
Okay.
And then I purchased my primary residence in Stony Creek, and then a secondary rental property in St. Catharines in 2017.
Okay, and you've hung on to those, probably done some refinancing, extracted some money out of them to expand.
Yes. Okay. I didn't know there was a thing that you could take out a line of credit against one of your properties and use as a down payment for a secondary. And I did that with my Ancaster St. Catharines property. I was like, this is life-changing when you can recycle money like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Especially when things are going up. Hopefully, sooner than later, we get to that point again, so we can see stuff going up.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned that you're doing some Airbnb, or that's in your plan. Yeah. Talk me through one of these, properties, or is that something that you're looking to buy, or are you going to do that with something you own, or are you going to be adding that in?
It was a hybrid. So I knew at the start of this year, having the house to myself, that I wanted to purchase certain things down the road. But I'm of the mindset, if I can generate an income stream to buy things I want, then that's the best thing to do rather than taking out debt or anything else. So I was like, okay, I have a home to myself now. Let me rent out a bedroom and a bathroom on Airbnb, because the goal is always to go down somewhere in the States, kind of where you are, to do the Airbnb thing there. But if I don't understand it, I'm not going to invest in it. So I want to understand it firsthand being a host. So this past summer, a single bedroom and bathroom in Stony Creek, I was busier than ever.
Serious? Oh man,
I did not expect how busy I was. Literally, Andrew, I did not have a social life.
That reminds me of Airbnb, like, because him and Ariana, they did their house when they were like students, or they were going to school, and they just rented out all the different rooms. Brilliant. Hey friends, I just wanted to pause the episode for a moment and tell you about my brand new sponsor, Control and Compound Financial. Darren Mitchell specifically, he was recently on the show on episode 198, and he explained the concept of infinite banking. Darren and I got to chatting because he had recently heard that I was going to be bringing on some sponsors, and he pitched me his idea. Well, I got to say, I really liked the way he explained the concept of infinite banking. It's something a lot of people in the community have talked to me about. I've heard it brought up multiple times. There's clearly an interest there, and why not have somebody sponsor the show that can articulate it well and help potential clients if it's the right fit for them. So with that said, Darren is actually offering a special consultation to help educate viewers of this show. And if that's something that you're interested in, I highly suggest you first off watch episode 198 to have a good basis of what it is. And then you can visit controlandcompound.com/Andrew Hines and book a consultation with a member of Darren's team. As I bring on more sponsors, I'm really looking to make sure that they're a value add for my audience and also for the sponsors themselves to create a true win-win. And I think this is that. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this message. Let's get back to the episode. So you did that. So just one room you rented out.
1 bedroom and 1 bathroom.
And that, like, did you like serve breakfast, or you're just like...
Just coffee in the Keurig. But here's the thing with Airbnbs. You show them the amenities they have access to. So they have the backyard they want. They have the barbecue. They have a parking spot. They have the living room with their own TV.
Yeah.
Whether they use it is another thing, but people make decisions based on the amenities. That's going to sway their decision. But when they come, they're in and out. They're going to weddings, they're doing wine tours, they're visiting friends and family. They're ready to use anything.
So these people, you started from a fresh Airbnb profile? Like you had nothing,
I was fortunate 3 years ago. I was thinking of doing this, and I had Airbnb actually come in with professional photographers and take photos of the place.
Okay.
And nothing's really changed, so they were really crisp photos and have been stored until this year. But they was fresh. I did all the shopping myself. I'm not very creative or decorative, but
Okay, so you had the photos, but you didn't have any transactions. You had no stays on your Airbnb profile. Okay, so people are agreeing. This is the thing, like, and I just got my first taste of Airbnb. I had never actually been a host until the campground, and we did 170 plus reviews over the course of the summer between everything, and hopefully we'll have that up into like the 600s after next summer.
Okay,
but it was an interesting experience. I didn't think that, well, up there I thought it would be a bit easier because we were at a camp, but I mean, renting out a bedroom in your house, are people open to that? Like they don't know you, and you're just some guy to them,
right?
And they're going to come stay in your house. Did you find it just got snapped up?
I did. I think that after the first couple of reviews, people took a little more, didn't have much caution to it. But the good thing about Airbnb is they know me as a person based on my reviews as being a guest.
Okay, so you had a track record.
Yes, I've done it since for 5 or 6 years, so they knew I was that way. I don't know what their mindset was, but I think it was cheap enough compared to the competition that they're willing to take a risk.
So what month did you start renting in?
February.
Started renting in February, and how much were you getting per night then, and did it change?
Yes, so February I was pretty much dead. February, March, pretty dead. It was $70 a stay.
So $70 a night?
A night.
And then what was your cleaning fee?
$19.
So basically...
$89.
$89 for a one night. Yeah. Were most one night stays?
I think the majority was like 2.2. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So 2 was more of an average stay.
2 was average.
Okay. And did that price change at all?
Yes, it's gone up. The peak summer and long weekends are $100, $105 a night, and I bumped the cleaning fee up to $24 because things were getting more expensive.
Okay, so I'm trying to work the numbers here. So you're eventually averaging $100 a night and fully busy, like all the time.
I was at 66 to 70% occupancy in 3 months of the summer. So
let's say 20. So you're basically averaging 20 nights a month. So 20 nights a month at $100. That's $2,000.
$2,000.
So $2,000 a month. Just
that's gross, and then net.
Yeah, what would you have had net?
Probably $300. So it cost me $300, so $1,700 would be net.
So to pay a cleaner or something?
I clean it myself, but the supplies.
Just like
I ask each guest before they come in, I'm going to go shopping. What particular fruits would you like? And I'll go shopping based on what they give me answers for.
Fruits. Oh, you provide fruit.
Fruits, and particular fruits for them.
Yeah.
So I'll go shopping, do that, and then I'll cleaning and other supplies. That about $300.
Nice. Okay, so This is an interesting concept because could you not do it with 2 bedrooms in your house?
Yeah, so that's the next thing. That's next year.
So, I mean, somebody theoretically, I mean, although every city is becoming difficult now, like in Hamilton, are you allowed to Airbnb out your house even if you don't live there?
I don't know if you don't live there.
So did they, because most municipalities seem to be coming in with this control where you have to, can only be your primary residence and it can only be a certain number of nights a year.
Mm-hmm. So Hamilton sent out, Airbnb actually notified me that Hamilton's having a committee about this and making some changes, and they wanted my opinion and sent me a templated letter sent to the MPs about how to go about this responsibly.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think since it's owner occupied, I might skirt underneath that.
Yeah, you're owner occupied. So how many bedrooms is your house?
4.
4. So you just need to hire yourself some staff, and then you do 3 of them.
3 of them.
I mean, of course, that changes your experience in your home, though.
It does.
Yeah.
So I got to a point, Andrew, where I wanted to book out days in advance to have my own private time.
Yeah.
Because it's something to come home and not worry about what you're wearing, what you're cooking, what you're listening to, what you're singing to.
Yeah. It'd be nice if, I mean, would it change anything if it's a secondary unit? Can you Airbnb it? I think that does change something.
Yes.
See, this is where Hamilton could be really great because most of the units are illegal. You got it's not its own unit, so right. Bye bylaw. Bylaw is something fairly. They're like, what's a good analogy for bylaw? I mean, the mafia I've heard, but I don't know. They just keep coming back. There's something.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it, but it just keeps coming back.
Yeah, you're right.
We've dealt with them a little bit up at our camp about just silly stuff, and they just keep on coming back. Anyways, I guess some of the neighbors weren't too happy with what we did, so they just call and they try and cause problems for us.
Just as a headache.
Just to be a problem for us, yeah. It's a mindset up there, which I've come to learn, is that there's these, people who have this mindset. Not to get tangent here, but I find this fascinating. So, I mean, for you, if you had a fixed rate mortgage, maybe that even covers most of your mortgage payment there. And that's a house hack. That's an effective house hack.
Right. Like a new age one versus a typical 2 units or duplex.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably going to become fairly popular. More people are probably going to do that. Now, what's the profile? Like, who is it that's coming in and staying? Like you said, they're going to wine tours. Yeah. Is there an age range? Is there a gender?
Great question, because I get this often when I talk to people about it, because they're like, people actually rent from you? I'm like, yeah. It's usually couples.
So 2 people come? 2
people, because it's a queen bed.
Okay.
Couples, and they're either coming from Buffalo, going up to Toronto, or the reverse, and it's a convenient stop on the way to either go to the wine tours or explore Hamilton.
And they'll stay for a couple nights.
Yeah. Some will come for weddings out of town, and they're going to Niagara Falls. And rather than stay in Niagara Lake and they're charging you 3 times what I'm charging, it's a 20-minute drive or 30-minute drive. They'll stop at my place. I've had couples on the way to Wonderland stopping in to explore the area, because I'm fortunate enough I'm close to the lake, so it's a nicer area.
And you must be like, I haven't seen your listing, I haven't seen your house, but I'm assuming that it's decently nice. You must be one of the nicer listings for a bedroom, and one of the cheaper options available.
Yes. I try to do both. I'm very particular about cleaning and make sure it's very nice.
Yeah.
So and it's undercutting. And now I've got review, and I've been... The
reviews are big, right?
Big.
So did you get Superhost?
I did.
Yeah, so there you go. Yeah. Now that you're a Superhost with a single bedroom, I mean, that's so valuable.
Yeah. It does rank you quite a bit. Yeah. And there's only 2 or 3 houses in my 5-kilometer radius doing the same thing, and they're all about 10 to 20% more than me.
So you undercut your competition. You're about 60-65% occupied throughout the year now.
Correct.
Even as a super, now as a Superhost, I think you get pushed more.
Yeah, pushed more, but right now it's a slower season, right?
Yeah, I mean, who really wants to visit Hamilton in November?
And if I'm not on the property, I don't rent it out. I have to be there.
That is tricky. Yeah. So the sweet spot, I would think, would be you buy one of these illegal duplexes, and the second non-unit to skirt the bylaw is rented out, but then you have separation. Then you're not they're not in your living space.
Right. Yeah.
And then that works really great. But this whole Airbnb house hack thing is great as long as the bylaws aren't going to mess with you. Yeah.
That's the big variable.
Yeah.
I think what the benefit also I have over my competition is I don't need this for a living.
Yeah.
It's not a necessity. So I can undercut and still get money because it's better than nothing. Or some people might actually use it to pay off their mortgage payment because they're highly levered underwater.
What would you say it takes, like, time-wise from you to do it?
For clean, I think it takes me 2 hours.
2 hours per guest?
Yeah.
That's tough.
I like it because I'm going to clean the house anyways. I do the whole house.
Yeah.
And I'm going to listen to podcasts while I do it, so I learn.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So I'm going to do it anyways. Now I'm getting paid to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes a little more time.
Yeah. It's, you know what though, like it's nice if that allows you to save up and work towards something. Like I love those hustles, like when you do something with a goal in mind. Like, is there a goal in mind with it, or is it experiment? I know you said you want to go south, you wanted the experience. I think that's all fantastic. Like trying it, you'll never understand something like you will if you try it. And now you're Superhost. Think about that experience. Like, you know what it takes to deliver that experience.
That kind of product. And the goal was, in February, I said I want to buy a whole suite of new tech for my business. And that's like going to cost me $5,000 or $6,000.
Yeah.
So what I did is every month after I made a certain amount, took my net profits, invested it.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to sell that in the next 10 days from now to buy my products.
Yeah.
I'm going to show my students, hey, you can take something you already have, develop an income stream, use it to buy what you want. And it can be very tax favorable because you do it in your business.
Yeah. You know, I used to, just on the side, just, you know, do little like handyman hustles and, you know, use the money I made to buy tools and like built up my, like the tools I own based on that. You know, it works out. It's nice side cash.
Yeah.
So similar mentality, because I always just like to have like something I was doing that I didn't really have to spend on my card. Right. You know, I had like cash that I just made that was for my everyday spending.
Yeah. Smart. And you can use it as a business expense later on.
Yeah. So give me your, you know, your shtick, your financial literacy, because I know you kind of hinted at it, a couple of things, and obviously this Airbnb thing plays into it. Like, if somebody asks you, hey, why are you educating and what are you educating?
Because you and I, we've gone through that secondary education, and you've taught at London before. You've taught the economics program. I
taught intro business class for Ivy at Western. Yeah.
How much time did you spend learning about the basics of financial literacy through your schooling?
None.
And you're in the field.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I studied entrepreneurship in a large degree, but even that, is that basics of financial literacy?
Is it practical or is it more theory?
It is practical. In our case, it was a case-based course, very rare, but most people don't. I went to the most practical version of it you could, and even that's not perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had an hour in our master's program, and it was a financial advisor pitching us what we should do with our money, and more inclined to spend it or use it with him.
Invest it with us and we'll only charge a 3% fee even if you lose.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And I found this huge kind of travesty. We have so many graduates, but no one really knows the basics of financial literacy. You leave school with student debt, you don't know how to pay it off. You want to buy a house, you don't know what a mortgage is, what the basics are, you don't know what a down payment is. So I was like, okay, if I'm struggling with this and I do this, I love learning about this. My peers are. And not only my peers, a farther reach of people. So just in 2021, I wrote what I would love to know if I went back 10 years ago and when I first started my career. What are the basics? What mistakes did I make to lose money on? How much time did I spend and lose time on? So I don't have to make the same mistakes, or my students don't have to make the same mistakes. So I created kind of 2 courses, the basics, the intro, the beginner course, and then the intermediate, the practical courses on how do you actually take the money you've learned and how to invest it. All without any financial education or knowledge, right? This is all learned through podcasts like yourself, a lot of ebooks, Audible, trial and error.
And that's, again, I really do think that's by design. Like I think that it is up to us to learn these things, and you know, good on you for going out there. I think for me, one of the most interesting things, and I like I said, I did get at least a bit of it from school, not a lot, but a bit. One of the most interesting things I learned was the matching principle for debt. Like short-term sources should match short-term uses. So if you're going to buy you know, a loaf of bread, you put that on a credit card, pay it off within 30 days. You're not going to put that, you know, take out a long-term loan and pay it back over 10 years, and just kind of like the basics, you know. So I kind of had to rid myself, and, you know, there's obviously different schools of thought, but I really, you know, even coming into working for Pro Funds as a mortgage broker is like, there's quote unquote good debt, which some people would disagree with, and then there's the bad debt, which, I mean, the bad debt is where you know, take money out against your house to buy, you know, something silly and you can't make the payment back or whatever, right? Versus borrowing a long-term mortgage for a rental property that's going to generate cash flow and enhance the wealth of your family. That's arguably good debt.
Absolutely.
If you believe that. I mean, of course, according to the Old Testament, it's all bad. But so that was one of the interesting things. I mean, obviously, I got bits and pieces of it being in a business program, looking at financial statements, seeing how cash flows, understanding assets, liabilities, equity, and all that stuff. Is that some of the stuff you get into?
Absolutely. It's like, Also diversification of your income streams. But we start with the basics. There's many people I talk to, physicians, chiropractors, and ask them what a stock or a bond or an ETF or a mutual fund is, and they couldn't tell you what that is. They don't know the difference between a TFSA and RSP. Many people in our field are employees.
Are you serious? They don't know TFSA or RSP?
No idea.
So like we're talking like absolute, like next to no knowledge.
Basics.
Yeah.
Basics.
Like what do they understand? Like if I don't have the money in the account, it won't go through.
Here's a good case in point. When I asked my friends who are employees at Hamilton Healthcare's, they have a RSP matching part of their benefits.
Yeah.
So I asked them, hey, Susie, how much do you get matched a year? I get 4%. Okay. Where does your money go? It goes in my RSP. Do you know what your RSP is invested in?
Do you know the fees you pay, how fast it grows?
Yeah, none of them.
And I was in that. You know what? I went to business school and I was in that group. I had a teacher's pension at Western, didn't know what it was invested in, didn't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
And even like my one biggest regret from back then was that I didn't buy a rental property as soon as I got my teaching contract. I should have, because I lived with 2 guys I graduated with.
Oh, wow.
I could have just said, hey guys, how about this? I'll buy a house. You guys just pay me rent.
Yeah.
And we'll have it. And I could have house hacked back then, built up some equity, like just didn't know. You know, like if I had known what we know today, it would have been a no-brainer, but I was too afraid of all that back then, right? But the education is what makes you actually want to pull the trigger on this stuff.
Yeah, and awareness.
And being around enough people doing it where you're like, I'm the odd man out for not doing it. Yeah, that's like, you got to put yourself in that room, like find really smart, successful people doing what you want to do, and to the point where you feel uncomfortable because you haven't done it yet.
Agreed. Totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the idea with the meetups too. That was a big part of why do those, because then it gets people to come out and, you know, all of a sudden it pushes them to do more.
Be there and ask questions and learn from it, right?
Be there, ask questions, and see it. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be, you know, they're just people like you and I, you know, that
it's funny how you say that, because you hold them in certain regard and you meet them face to face. They're just regular people. Girls
yeah,
and
I
gals.
think for some reason some people put me up on the pedestal, and then it just kind of like, hey, I'm just just a guy like,
Joe
that started talking on the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, actually had this happen the other day. A guy shouts at me, and you never know when somebody calls your name, like, hey, are you Andrew? It's like some guy, it's a homeless guy going to ask me for money. In fairness, this guy knows who he is. You did not look homeless, but it was before I looked. Okay. You were a very well-to-do man. Anyways, so he's like, you Andrew Hines?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh yeah, I listen to your podcast all the time. I'm like, that's you know, it's interesting. It's funny that those type of things happen. But you know, if you're around Burlington a lot, you'll eventually see me somewhere.
That comes with the fame, Andrew.
Yeah, it comes with the fame. It's my micro fame, and it usually happens somewhere around Denninger's. I was there with my wife, and so in the mall.
Yeah.
And she's got 30 minutes to wealth, obviously.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you know, somebody's
Power
just
couple.
like. He kept looking at her, and she's like, what's going on? He's like, this might be awkward, but are you on TV?
Yep, that's me.
Yeah, we'll enjoy our micro fame.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, it's fun. Okay, so we had some stuff we were going to go over. You had sent me. Obviously, the first one, and we've probably covered some of this, but you talked about, so why did you want to start the financial literacy education program? You talked about that, so people you knew weren't really doing it.
Weren't doing it, and they
didn't know anything. Yeah.
They didn't know it.
So what are some of the things that you see them knowing now? Like, how have you helped them, and what do you see them knowing now?
I think a big thing is people didn't know where their money was going. They'll make their $5,000 a month, and at the end of the month they have nothing. And they're like, where does your money go? If you don't have a particular goal, you don't know where your money is going, how do you know you're making the best use of your time? Because you're trading your time for money, and that's the biggest thing we do in our profession. We are stuck in a clinic for a certain amount of hours a day, and we have a finite amount of time. We can't earn an income irrespective of our location or time like other people can.
Yeah.
So they don't know where their money's going. They don't know the possibilities out there, and they want to know that it's not shady or high risk. That's the big thing. When you're an employee, you generally have very low risk tolerance, because that's why you have that role. You want the security, you want the hours, you want the pension, you want the benefits.
It's a false security, but it is
Agreed.
Security all the same.
Exactly. So you have you kind of bias yourself to a certain type of a person. But now they can see regular people like you and me do certain things and have the life they might want. When I say the life, not the glamorous things, but the time freedom of things.
Yeah.
The ability to do what you want when you want to, when you can go and see Wellington anytime you want. That's freedom, right? It doesn't matter what you have in your wallet, but you have the ability to do that. That's what I want to show these people you can do.
Yeah, I mean, and you pointed out something important, and we all have to consider it in our roles, like what we do for income is, eventually one day where that might not work or that might dry up for one reason or another. So you never want to be stuck to that one thing, right? You got to constantly be looking for new ways to leverage your time so that you're not having to be there. You're able to empower others and still profit from it. And being the business owner, I think, is a great way to do that if you can. Obviously, that's pretty advanced for what you're teaching. You're more teaching, let's just get started on diversifying income.
Correct. So diversification will help maintain your wealth, and concentration will help kind of build it, right? So teaching those principles, basic stuff initially, and then with the intermediate course, it's more complex stuff like the BRRRR wholesaling.
So you're teaching that stuff too, how to do those ideas.
I talk about the traditional asset classes, and then the more alternative ones where it's crypto, where I invest in, or art or wine, other asset classes to diversify.
Those don't cash flow though. Crypto, art, and wine.
They don't.
Those are the fundamental things. You know what? And way back, people kept asking me about crypto. I've never strayed from that. I do think it's a tool. I do think crypto's a tool. Don't get me wrong. When you can't cash flow from it, and obviously there's no gold backing or something. But yes, totally, especially when governments can, inflate the dollar and deflate it. But then I look at the last year with Bitcoin, and it went from 60,000 high. I think I just checked it out. It was like 20,000 the other day. Yeah, that hurts.
It does. But what's your time horizon? Yeah. Zoom out 4 years, and it was at 3,000.
Oh yeah. It's gone up and down.
Look at your Canadian dollar, U.S. dollar. Zoom out 4 years. It's also a lot more worth back then than it is currently.
It's absolutely changed a lot. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think if that's a little piece of the portfolio, certainly I think some people have a comfort level with. Let's throw a little at that and see what happens there.
Yeah, 1.35% of your portfolio.
Yeah. Let's throw a little bit there, see what happens, and also have some other stuff going on. What do you know about the exchange thing that just happened?
FTX.
Yeah.
So. It's the second biggest exchange, and usually for crypto, yes, worldwide, because it was a lot more prominent outside of North America than it is inside North America. Yeah, and I think what happened, the owner or the Sam Bankman-Fried, the actual the founder of it, was using customer deposits and lending out to another department that he owned called Alameda Research. Yeah, and then when they had. It was leaked about a week earlier that they didn't have sufficient funds to manage it. There was a bank run like they did back in 2008. And everybody came calling for their money.
And then they went under. Yeah.
They couldn't satisfy that.
Yeah, that's so wild. The most wild thing, I think, next to Bernie Madoff was the name. Bankman-Fried.
Yeah.
He's fried.
Yeah.
What other names? So there's Bernie Madoff with everybody's money. The Bankman's fried.
Oh, okay, that's good. I didn't think of that way.
And what else do we got? I mean, there's so many like that. It's like, how did they do that? Like,
and he was influential in politics. He was a big donor.
Yeah, exactly. There's many layers to that. So, not to get tangent here, but. It's just an interesting conversation. What have you seen as that created opportunities as far as, that side of the business goes? Like, I mean, I'm sure that scared a lot of people and caused values to go down a bit.
It did. Yeah. And I think it teaches people a lesson that they might not have been privy to, because it happened in 2017 and happened in 2014, where these major exchanges will go under and people house all their value on that exchange.
And then you lost it.
Or it's held up in courts.
Yeah.
So it's important to know that when you have an exchange, it's valuable to take your money off it from the warm wallet to a cold wallet. How's it?
Yeah, like a hard wallet.
Wallet, exactly.
Yeah, I was actually I'm not completely opposed. It's just like, for me, like the whole crypto thing is like, maybe throw a little bit at that. That's my attitude, and that'll probably never change.
I think you changed that from when we
from a hard no to
in 2019 we were talking about
it. Maybe as a tool in case one day my dollars don't work. Yeah, that might be one of my side amounts. But yes, that was my minor adjustment on that front. But not to say, again, I'm not trying to poo-poo it, although I've poo-pooed it many times.
But with that, I think also like wine and art. Yeah. It's something I've done not because of cash flows. It doesn't cash flow, but it hedges currency risk and inflation risk.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. And I have gold and silver. I've talked about that many times. Doesn't cash flow, and that sucks. It's an insurance policy.
Correct.
Yeah, that's all it is. And you pay for insurance. So the pay is not getting cash flow, as far as I see. And gold and silver are manipulated, which really sucks. Like, they're so controlled by paper markets that, the value isn't really the value. Like, if it was, we know what inflation is. Why hasn't gold gone up in line?
Hasn't, eh?
No.
Not touched, no.
It will eventually. Like, there'll come a tipping point, I think. Anyways, and not that I have a crystal ball. Okay, so what is your specific goal with all of this?
I'm 35 at the moment, so I want in 5 years to be in a position where I want to work, not need to work.
So 5 years to not need to work.
Not need, and having that choice. I love what I do. What I do, but I know I can't. My body can't take this. I can't do this forever. So can I develop income streams to take me out of that position so I can spend time doing things I want to do?
Yeah. I love it.
I think the choice is what I want to do. And people, I've talked to advisors, I've talked to friends, they're like, Robyn, won't you be bored? I said, I have so many other things that keep me happy and keep me kind of having some sort of fulfillment.
You golf a lot.
I golf a terrible amount, you know that. But yeah, things I want to do. I just want to be in a position to have that choice. And I don't think not many of us have that ability or that choice.
Yeah.
So that's the big driving force.
That's huge. Yeah. And that resonates with me a lot. I mean, I feel like you made a huge step to it with the Airbnb thing, although it's a bit of a job too. And there's probably ways you can automate some of that. And as you do it more, you'll find those ways. So that's awesome. And I couldn't agree more, because like we said, this whole thing, you just never know when that day comes where you can't practice. And like you said, it is a pretty hands-on physical job. You got to be able to work with people physically. So that makes a lot of sense. So will you keep doing the Airbnb thing then?
I will now. And the goal in the next 12 months is to purchase something south of the border, looking at Florida or Arizona. And just buying a property to use for 85% of the year as a rental income and 50% of the year to use for myself, and understand the logistics of owning property as a Canadian citizen. There's a lot of kind of things you have to go through to get that situated correctly.
Hoops to jump through.
Hoops to jump through, correct.
Yeah, there's a lot of work which I learned by throwing it at the wall and making changes and undoing mistakes that I made early on, right? Like, because I did this first time through in 2012 going into the States.
Ohio.
In Ohio. So that was my first crack at it. And then, of course, now I got better advice and better accountants and such. But
better property manager?
No property manager. That's the way I avoided that so far. I mean, we'll see. Once I get into the actual Airbnb side of things, I'm adjusting, because like our market, that market is coming down too, but not fast. That market's coming down very, very gradually. Right. And I think now that the hurricane destroyed some houses, it actually might push it back up.
Fair.
But as long as we're in a declining market, even if it is extremely slow, I will probably just keep selling. Okay. Keep building, selling, and until it gets to a point where I could probably just even buy something and resale and Airbnb it. I'll do that. I'll just take my profits and funnel it into something resale. Might as well in that environment. But yeah, I'm still bullish on warm weather climate.
Absolutely.
Even if there was a hurricane, I still think, like, a lot of people down there are a little scared to, like, what's going to happen. Tourism's gone. I'm like, do you think people like the cold now? Now they just have less places to stay. Yeah. They're not going to avoid you just because you had a hurricane. So yeah, it's I'm actually thinking there's an incredible opportunity, and I've seen, like, rents down there are insane. It's nothing available. Rents are up through the roof. Like, kind of like not great looking stuff is like listed for $3,500 with no pool. $3,500 a month for like a longer term rental. That's not Airbnb.
No.
So, I think that there's an opportunity even for some of my stuff to go close to $5,000 if I wanted to just rent it out. Like, so $60,000 a year just on a tenant.
Yeah.
But I'd rather, that's not going to really work that well. I'd rather get into the Airbnb side of things with it. It's nice to know that you got that as a backup, though.
That's why you bought it, right? You have two strategies to exit.
That's three. I could sell. Could rent it out. Could Airbnb it. I love that flexibility. So again, not to get tangent, but studying into the U.S. and now you've got that experience. You can now look at that. Fortunately, somebody who's done it, so you have somebody you can ask questions to. We've already talked about this a fair bit. Yeah. So for those who don't know, Robyn's extremely good at golf, so that's how he woos you.
I play a lot of golf.
He shoots in the 70s, but then refuses to instruct you on how to get your golf swing better.
I'm not a coach. I don't know what I'm doing.
He'll coach you on other things, just not your swing.
Just not your swing.
Your response is, I don't know what I'm doing. It just works.
I honestly don't know, right?
Yeah. It works well. Okay, so if you had to go back in time and tell yourself something from, something that you know now, say like you said, your 10 year ago self, what would that be?
Take action, make mistakes.
Yeah.
Small ones, right? I think we are so fearful, and fear will kill more dreams than failure ever will. But we're so fearful of making mistakes that we don't even take action. And then here's the thing. You'll wait 10, 15 years, and you'll say, I wish I would have done that. And you regret it. And that 15 years is gone.
Yeah.
So I always think about my future self before I make decisions. And if I think I'm going to regret the decision or not making decisions, I'll make that decision.
Yeah, I agree. Like you gotta take action even when it's uncomfortable.
That's it.
And I would say our camp was probably one of the more uncomfortable things, like buying for me. But sometimes, like for me, I just didn't want to sit around and not do, something I thought was a good idea for my concerns about what the market might do or what might happen. Eventually, there comes a point for everyone, and everyone's point is different. But you just hit this point, you're like, okay, I'm just gonna do it.
Just gonna do it.
Yeah.
And do you regret making the decision now?
No, I've learned a ton, and we've got something we can build on, and lots of opportunity for the future. But it's work. It is work.
Perfect. Yeah. Nothing worthwhile comes easy, though. You know that.
It hasn't been easy.
I'm
straight up. But what we've learned is very empowering. Like what we'll be able to do with the knowledge and with the experience, and with this specific asset too.
And can anybody take that away from you? No.
Can't take the knowledge away.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then you build off of that, right? Like the same thing goes with my first time going to the U.S. I was very much the guy that would just pull the trigger and then figure it out back then. And I went far the other way, where I just became super conservative with my investing decisions. And for me, I need to land somewhere in the middle. Like can't be too conservative. Have to be somewhere in the middle.
Right.
And but yeah, I learned a ton from that back then. Like all those lessons carried forward and gave me the confidence to do it again. Like, oh, no brainer.
If I could do that, I can do this.
Yeah, I've already done this before.
Made that mistake.
We can do this again, but we'll do it right this time.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a good point. Like being in the middle, I'm a real estate investor by heart, but I think a lot of us are real estate investors, but we're very focused on real estate. And what I learned 2 years ago is that my real estate portfolio was cannibalizing my actual wealth portfolio because it took more and more share of it. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm very heavily concentrated in real estate. Yeah. And I think most of us in the game right now haven't lived through 1989 or 1992 when the Canadian housing market actually went down. Mortgage rates were double digits, and it wasn't sexy to be a real estate investor. And I don't know if we're going to see that again, but I always tell my clients or my students is try to diversify if you can into other revenue streams and versus being
even
super concentrated.
Even other markets too, right?
Markets
like
too,
get into Asian markets
geographic
or something. Yeah. Like just out of these. I mean, if you listen to like Peter Schiff, he'll talk about stuff like that. Not that I haven't listened to him in a long time. Okay. Like people laugh. Yeah. You brought up that name.
No.
He's got an interesting.
He's an anti-Bitcoiner, so
yeah. Oh man, yeah. No, but he has some interesting perspectives on stuff for sure. But just getting into other markets, doing it's tough because I look at today and I say real estate's probably the most bankable thing I see, period. Like stock market doesn't give me any more comfort. I'm bullish on the right property.
Yep.
In Ontario right now, I think there's opportunities, and I think that there's a great way to get into the market right now at a price where the cash flow will be awesome. And even, if we have some up and downs over the next 5 to 10 years, you could still be very happy with that decision.
Yeah.
That's kind of where my head's at now with Ontario. As an investor, I think that's the mindset people need to have because we don't know what's going to happen. And the precedent historically when we have corrections is they take a while to sort themselves out. They don't just happen overnight. Like the interest rates of the 80s didn't come down until like 2000. Like it took from, and as far back as I could go, it was like 30 years ago. So it was like the early 80s. It was like 15% bond rate.
Yeah.
It took until like 2000 to come down to 6.
It's like, yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Insane.
And it was like a steady decline over that time frame.
If you look at the 10-year bond over the last 40 years, it's been down and to the right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's up for now.
It's now it's back
touching
up.
Boundaries.
But so you look at that precedent and keeping that in mind, I think that we need to be comfortable with the higher interest rates for some time.
Yes, because it's historically low right now, but it's high relative to where it was, and that's that absolute versus relative.
And this is why I think like Canadian market versus U.S. market. Big pro for the U.S. market. Not that there aren't negatives. Sure there are, and this is not investment advice. But Americans have 30-year mortgages.
15 and 30 years, yeah.
A lot of people have 30-year mortgages. Imagine I saw the meme floating around, like the people who, it was like just a picture of King, whatever his name is, Charles? Yeah, King Charles. And it's like people who locked into a 30-year fixed rate in 2021. And it's
so happy.
Yeah, what a difference that makes. But I think what that does is that actually takes the pressure off of people in the U.S. Like they don't have this 5-year renewal coming up. Whereas you've got people here who got 2% mortgages in 2017 and they're up for renewal.
Yeah.
2.5 probably back then. And then you're going to have your 18s that they're renewing, into potentially 6-7% from 2.5.
3xing, right?
Yeah, that's not. So ultimately, what that translates to mean inventory. That means more supply onto the market. More people are going to say, that renewal, nah, we're selling.
Yeah,
we're selling. And then they go to sell, and then you have more supply on the market than you used to, which means more negotiating power for a lot of buyers out there.
So do you think the increase in rates going to make them, like, what I would counter argue with that is, like, yeah, increased rates going to make it more expensive, but they've also had 20-30% of increase in equity in their property.
Yeah.
So they may not be underwater or have that.
No, I'm not saying they're necessarily underwater, and that's why they have the ability to sell.
Yeah.
But they may not want to. They may look at it in their financial picture and say, that's not going to work as a payment for us.
A payment, right?
It's just motivation to sell. It just stimulates supply. So not that won't happen in the States. It will happen there too. And there's some people who just, for one reason or another, need to move. I don't know if they can port their 30-year mortgages down there.
That I don't know.
If they can, then they're laughing. It's just, for me, that's a good reason to focus a little bit more as an investor in the U.S. Knowing, because it just affects the amount of supply in the market. Again, not to say that there's not some fantastic opportunities right here in Ontario right now. Have your eyes open. Like, if people who seek opportunities will see them.
We'll find them. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they will see them. So they're there. I really do believe you can make money within a kilometer of your own house. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, you just got to, you have to have the mindset to see that.
You're so right, because when you have your guests on, you're like, holy cow, this guy's doing this. I never thought about that.
Yeah, exactly. It's because if you ask the question, your brain searches for the answer.
Yes.
Right. But people who say, I can't versus how can I, that's
Correct.
two very different statements.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah, I like that a lot. I use that a lot.
Yeah, it's reframing, right? Like we both obviously got into the education side of this, right? We educated ourselves. Financial literacy starts with just a pattern of thinking and asking the right questions. Some people, that their brains just work like that, very few.
Yeah.
But other people have to educate themselves and kind of rid themselves of the mind viruses, which I find most people in our community have done to some degree.
To some degree, yeah.
Yeah, especially the ones that make it out to the meetup, like they're serious. They take mindset seriously. They've already done a bunch of education, and a lot of them have paid tens of thousands of dollars for training, coaching, formal education on real estate investing and such. Yeah,
and that's the first chapter of my course is mindset.
Yeah,
because if you don't have that, you don't have much.
Yeah. So is there a book coming and all this?
I have ebooks. Yeah. I created some ebooks. Took some time, but they're I can't write very well, so it's an ebook. But they're online. You
gotta hire somebody to help you write them.
Okay. I asked my mom. She's very critical of my speaking and my writing. She's an English major, so she's particular.
So she's hired. There you go.
Mom's not very tech savvy, but yes, I can ask her.
You can dictate into the phone. This is the way I think. You dictate it into the phone and let them type it down.
There you go. Yeah,
that's the right way to do it. Robyn, were there any parts of the kind of the course or the message you wanted to iterate that we haven't already covered?
No, I think we're in a favorable situation right now living in Canada. There's a lot of opportunity available to us. It's just getting out of your comfort zone, taking action. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and surround yourself with people who are more intellectually gifted than you are, but you have the willingness to learn, and you'll go far. Yeah,
that attitude to learn, right?
Yeah.
Admit you know nothing. Like, at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of all the things there are to know, we all know just this side of nothing.
You're right.
If that's the mind frame you have, I think you'll do all right.
Everything's a learning opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the other portion of the population, the 99% that think they know it all. And
I was that way when I exited school, because you were told, Robyn, you have a master's degree, you got to know something. And you thought that way, and I'm like, I'm so dumb back then. You know
I
nothing.
Used to think I knew, just knew it all. I was such a idiot.
Agreed. Same here. And it kneecaps you from learning more at that age.
Oh, yeah.
You just dismiss it.
Yeah. What's that? What do they call that? That's unconscious incompetence.
You don't want to be there. Not knowing that you're incompetent.
Hitting conscious incompetence is a real achievement, because then you can start rebuilding from there.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more thing I wanted to ask you about is obviously options trading. Erwin came on the show a few episodes back, said he didn't know anybody who hadn't lost money this year except for what's his name that wrote the book?
Derek Foster or Lee Lowell?
Derek Foster.
Derek Foster,
right. How has that gone for you? What opportunity are you kind of seeking in that space right now with everything that's happened?
So yeah, I've been assigned a few positions, and I think you had Mark on earlier. He was talking about writing cover calls against them. So that's what I've been doing. So I have the positions. I own the 2 or 3 stocks, and now I'm just writing calls against them and deriving income from it. Okay. So it's still a negative in my portfolio. I think I'm down 8%. Versus other parts where I may be down 20% in a buy and hold strategy. Okay. So it's the lowest loser.
So you're clawing your way back out of it slowly?
That's it. And I only have 60% of my portfolio invested. Other 30% on hand. Because I don't want to be fully invested, and nor do I take any leverage. So if there's an opportunity that I want to purchase,
you still have the opportunity to make it back. Yeah,
correct. So,
I'd be very curious if Derek Foster would come on, although he's not a real estate investor, so it's tough. But that'd be a B episode, I guess. I'd be very curious how he did that. But what Erwin was saying, now he's shorting the market. So somebody's obviously willing to take the bet. He's just basically placing bets.
Okay. Like outright shorts, or is he selling puts?
He's doing shorts.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like the probably single toughest concept to learn for me.
Borrowing something.
A guy who told me what a short was, he's like, you're placing a bet. I'm like, but who's taking your bet?
People are going long, right?
Yeah.
There's always a second.
Is that how it works? Like there's just somebody who's betting the market will go back up, and then that's interesting.
There's always the other side to your position. Yeah. And I might think Apple's the greatest thing. You might think it's garbage because you're a Google person.
For all the puts you sell, there's people buying them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. It's so interesting. I just look at that space as a lot of work to learn, and I'm good with what I'm doing, but it's definitely fascinating to chat about, and a lot of people are doing it, so I'm always curious.
Do you know why I love it so much? Because in between clients, if they're late or they don't show up, I can rock out a trade and still make 2 hours of work in that one trade. Yeah. And so the flexibility, and I'm big on independence of location, independence of my time too. So I can do it in Florida if I want to. I need a phone. That's it. So it's another revenue stream. It's not my only one, but it's another one I can do, which is really attractive to me.
Yeah, that one guy. His name's escaping me. I apologize if he's listening right now. But I golfed with him in Florida, and he happened to be down there when I was down there, and he said he'd replaced his income. This was obviously before all this happened, but I'd love to catch up with him and talk to him. But basically, I don't know what he was making, like 10, 20 a month.
See?
But hey, that's kind of cool.
Hey, you have some people have bankrolls of $1 million and they're making 1% a month.
Yeah. But he wasn't in that. He was doing a more aggressive strategy. Okay. But I hope it worked out well for him. I'd love to catch up with him and talk to him. The name did come back to me, but I'm not going to share his name right now.
Okay.
But anyways, okay. So Robyn, I appreciate you doing this.
Thank you, Andrew. Likewise.
It's nice to catch up with you. We'll have to go out to the golf simulator.
Yeah, now it's winter,
Now it's winter. Or the golf course behind my house. They're open year-round. Okay, well, I appreciate this, and let's get out and catch up again soon, and I'll talk to you then.
Thank you, Andrew. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help it help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. I'll see you on the next one. This episode is brought to you by Control and Compound Financial. They teach real estate investors how to multiply their wealth using infinite banking strategies. For a complimentary wealth coaching session or to learn more, visit www.controlandcompound.com/Andrew Hines.